Hello.
Hi, Harold.
Hi, Alan. Okay. It said there was a shooting near the Grove today.
No kidding, yeah?
Yeah, 3:30. And there on Beverly Boulevard, there's that natural health food place, Erewhon.
Sure.
So they said in the parking lot.
Oh, across the street where the post office is?
Oh, yeah, right near the post office. Yeah.
That's all the airline is, unless it's the basement of Erewhon. Maybe it's because right across the street is the post office parking lot.
Yeah, the post office. Yeah, they said in the parking lot of Erewhon.
Well,
3:30, but they can't find the police got there too late. Of course, they got there too late.
anybody injured?
They said someone was injured, but he left. He ran away. So it must have been some gangs. So usually it's gangs.
Oh my goodness, yeah,
Crazy.
So much anti-Semitism going around. They're writing on the walls. They're doing graffiti also. A lot of graffiti too.
They're getting away with it.
Yeah. I know people are alarming themselves. They're arming themselves too.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm thinking of getting a gun too. I don't know.
You are?
I'm thinking of, yeah. My wife we had one years ago. My kids took it away from us, but my grandson has a whole arsenal.
Oh, he does.
Yeah. They're good shooters, though. They're good.
Oh, they practice.
Yeah,
you got to practice. Yeah, it's
sure
important to practice.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on Ayin Zion Amud Beis. So we're asking. We said that a Kohen a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to live with an almana, and then we said if he lived with a woman who was a widow 3 times, almanas Ruvain, almanas Shimon, almanas Levi, why should she be only chayiv one? Are Guf and Muchlakin? They're different people. Are Shemus Muchlakin? And you'd be chayiv 3. Ela Shabala Mona Achas Shalish Bias. We're talking about a case. There was one woman who was an almana, and he had relations with her 3 times. So Gemara says, "Echidami idelo asru bei." If there was no warning in between each bia, pshita de nechayv elachas. Of course, you're only going to be chayiv 1. Ela da asru bei kol chada v'chada. There must have been hasra between each bia. So then, amai eno chayv elachas. Vatna nazir shayeshoy siyayin kol yom kula. A nazir was not allowed to drink wine. If he drinks wine a whole day, and no one told him anything, eno chayv elachas. He's chayv 1 korban. Amr lo al tishte v'hu shoseh. Each time he drinks, they warn him chayv al kolachas v'yachas. So it should be the same thing by the almana. So lo tzricha shaba almanas Ruvain, sha'isa almanas Shimon, sha'isa almanas Levi. We're talking about a woman who was widowed 3 times, not 3 different widows, but she was married to Ruvain and Shimon and Levi, all of them who died. I might think, she's a different almana, and maybe it's chayiv 3. In order to be chayiv 3, you need 3 different women, balek, and you only have 1 woman. Then it says almana grusha v'chalala zona. If a woman was a widow and a divorcee and a chalala, and in that order, and the Kohen Gadol has relations with the 1 woman, chayiv 4. So high Taina Mike Ksaver. What does this Tana hold? E Ksaver Isra Chalal. So once something is prohibited, can a second prohibition have a chalois there? So if you hold Isra's Chalal Isra, so what do we care whether it was Almana Grusha Chalola Zona in that order. It could be any order. If you hold Isser Chalal Isser. Viksav Ein Isser Chalal Isser. And if you hold in general that once something is prohibited, you can't add another prohibition. I feel it Kaseder Zenamilo. Then who cares that it was done in this order? Amar Rav Haitani Isser Chalal Isser Leslie. For a general rule, a second Isser cannot chal. However, if the second Isser is an Isser Mosif, is a broader Isser. So, for example, an Almana is only prohibited to a Kohen Gadol. A Grusha is prohibited to all Kohanim. So it's a broader Isser. It's called an Isser Mosif. So that Islay. Almana sur the Kohen Gadol v'shai the Kohen Hedyon. A regular Kohen can marry a widow. But now she becomes Havile Grusha, Miku di Tosif Laisur Lagabi Kohen Hedyon. Because now there's a more encompassing Isser that a Kohen Hedyon can't live with her. Tosif Laisur Lagabi Kohen Gadol. It adds a second Isser when a Kohen Gadol lives with her. However, Adayin Shailamechel Betruma. She would still, such a woman would still, if she was a Kohenes, could go back to her father's house and eat Truma until she's a Chalola, which is a Kohen having relations with her when it's prohibited. So, for example, if a Kohen has a relationship with this woman who's a Grusha, she now becomes a Chalola. So, and now it's a broader Isser. Because as a Chalola, she can't go back to her father's house and eat Truma, which she was allowed to do as a Grusha. So because it's a broader Isser, Itoisef Isser Lagabi Kohen Gadol. That's why when the Kohen Gadol lives with her now, there's at least 3 Malkuses. Elazoina ma Isser Moisef Ispe. How do you add, like if a Goy lives with her, what additional Isser is there? Amar Rav Chanam Rav Ketina. Hoil v'shem znus poisel b'Yisrael. You know what? When an Eishes Ish is mezana with an adulterer, she's asur to her Baal. So that aspect adds an Isser to the Kohen Gadol. Tani kamed Rav Sheshes. Kol shu b'yikach. Any woman that a Kohen Gadol is allowed to marry, like B'Sulam Me'amav Yikach, then if he lives with an Almana or Grusha, Arehu below Yikach. If otherwise he could have lived with her, there was no other Isser, then there's the law of Almana and Grusha. Kol she'eno b'Yikach. If there was already some kind of prohibition, for example, Kohen Gadol has a sister. He's already prohibited to give Kiddushin to his sister. And let's say the sister is an Almana. He lives with her. There's no lav of Almana because there was no ability to do Kiyikach. Amar Lachmani, who told you this? Rab Shimon, are you going to tell me this is only Rab Shimon? And therefore, since there's already an Isser of Achoisai, there's no Isser of Lo Yikach of Amana? And where do you see this? The Tanya. Rab Shimon Oimer. You have a piece of meat that's Nevela, which is already Asr Balav. And you eat the Nevela on Yom Kippur. Potter. You're potter from Kores for Achilas Yom Kippur. Because prior to eating it, it was already Asr al Nevela. So perhaps when we said that if the Kohen Gadol lives with his sister's Namana, there's no Isser, maybe it's only Rab Shimon who holds Ein Isser Chalal Isser. The Rabbanon Ha'amri Isser Chalal Isser. So Gemara says Afilu Temer Rabbanon. this brisa, you could learn. Ki amra Rabbanan Isra Chal Isra Hanimili Isra Chomer Al Isra Kal. When the second Isra is more stringent, then there's a chalois. For example, when you eat nevela, you only get malchus. When you eat on Yom Kippur, you get kores. Aval Isra Kal Al Isra Chomer. But for example, Isra Choisoi is bekores. Isra Almana is only a lav. You only get malchus. Aval Isra Kal Al Isra Chomer Lo Chayil. The Kohen Gadol is already prohibited to live with his sister on pain of kores. So to add malchus, the Chachamim don't agree. Ikedi Amri, others say right away, Hamani Rabbanani. The Amri Isra Chal Al Isra, because you can add the Isra of Almana on the Isra of Achosa. Ki Amri Rabbanan, Isra Chal Al Isra, Hani Mili, Bisra Chomer Al Isra Kal. That's a second Isra can only have a chalois if the second Isra is more stringent. Aval Isra Kal Al Isra Chomer Lo Chayil. Like the case of Almana on Achosa. The Rab Shimon, Hashta Isra Chomer Al Isra Kaloi Chayil. Rab Shimon doesn't hold of any kind of Isra Kal Al Isra, even in Isra Chomer. So Isra Kal Al Isra Chomer, my boy, there would be no shaila that it would be the sheet of Rab Shimon. So that the Gemara says you can't say that. Ma'adasem Isra Kuna Shiny. Maybe since we're more machmir by Yichos by Kuna, maybe even Rab Shimon would say Kamash Malon that even there Rab Shimon patters. Amar Rav Papa Labai. Yisrael Abal Achoisai. Zoyna Mashvile. We know any kind of prohibited bia causes the woman to become a zona. And she would not be permitted to live with a Kohen. Does it also make her chalola mashvile or lo mashvile? Does making a woman a zona automatically make her a chalola as well? And maybe a Kohen who has relations with such a woman will be chayiv too, for zona and chalola. Mi amrinan kal v'chomer. Me chayve lavin. When is a woman a halal? It's, for example, a Kohen is not allowed to marry a grusha, but that's only belav, and yet she becomes a chalola. Chayve chalola, chayve increases l'kol shekain. But if you live with your sister, that's a punishment of kares. So that certainly should make you chalola. Oy dilma, ein chalola el me'isra kuhuna. Chalalus only is created from a prohibition of kohanim. So Amar lei, ein chalala me'isra kuna bilvad. In isra chalala el me'isra kuna bilvad. Chalalus is only prohibitions of kohanim. And we paskin that way. So when you make her a zona, when she lives with an eved or a goy or her brother, she does not become an automatic halal. Amar Rav, Menoa Mil Sadam Rabbanon, Ein Halal Ala Misra Kuna. Where did the Chachamim get this? The Tanya. Lo Yomer Grusha B'Kohen Gadol. V'Teisi B'Kava Chomer B'Kohen Egyed. The Torah repeats the Isser of Grusha by Kohen Gadol. The question is why? Why not learn it B'Kava Chomer? Ve'ana Mina. Hashta L'Kohen Egyed Asura. If a Grusha is prohibited to a regular Kohen, the Kohen Gadol, a boy, would the randomly shaila that she can't live with the Kohen Gadol? Why did the Torah have to write it? So Lama Nemra, Kashem Shechaluka Grusha Mizoyna V'Chalola, Kohen Hedya. Just like there are multiple different prohibitions to a regular Kohen, Grusha, Zona, Chalola, and you get Malchus for all three. Kach Chaluka B'Kohen Gadol. So if a Kohen Gadol lived with a Grusha and a Chalola, there would be multiple lavi. The Gemara says pshita. Why would we think that? Migri Gara? I mean, is a Kohen Gadol worse? if they all are piled up for Kohen Hedyot, of course they should be there for Kohen Gadol too. Ella, Kashem Shaluka, Grusha, Mizona, V'chalola, the Kohen Hedyot. Just like Grusha is different than a Zona V'chalola, and you're chai for each one. Kach Almana, Chaluka, Migrusha, V'chalola, B'Kohen Gadol. Even though it's all mentioned in the same lav, Almana, Grusha, Chalola are also prohibited with different lavim by Kohen Gadol. So Chalola Lamanem. Why was Chalola mentioned? It's already mentioned by a regular Kohen. That to teach me, Ein Chalola Elam Yisra Kuhuna. Zona Lamanem. Why was Zona mentioned by Kohen Gadol? Emer Kan Zona V'Nemer Lahalon Zona. It says by Kohen Gadol the Isra Zona. It says by Kohen Hedyot Zona. Makan Zarachulin. Kohen Gadol lives with the Zona. The child is a Halal. Aflahalin Zarachul. Same thing by regular Kohen. Aravashi Hilkach Kohen Abala Choisoi Zoina. So if the Achoisoi had become a Zona because it lived with her brother, and a Kohen has relationship afterwards with such a woman who's a Zona, so that's a prohibited relationship to a Kohen. So Mashvile Chalola. So I'm sorry. Kohen Abala Choisoi. The first, if the Kohen lives with his sister, it only makes her a Zona. There's no Chalolos because that's not a Kohanic prohibition to live with your sister. It's a regular prohibition. It makes her, so it's an Isser Bia, she becomes a Zona. But Chalola lo mash. But Chazer Ubala, but if he had relations a second time, and now a Kohen's not allowed to marry a Zona, Asa Chalola could make her a Chalola. We're on Ayin Ches Amid Aleph, so I think he wants me to shut that off. Stop video. How do you do new recording? Oh yeah. Here, let me stop it. I'll call you right back. 1 second. Why does it say recording in progress? Okay. So now we're on Ayin Ches Amid Aleph. Amravi the Kohen Gadol Ba'amana. A Kohen Gadol lives with Ba'amana like a Shnayim. Achas mishum lo yikach. V'achas mishum lo yichalel. He shouldn't make her a chalala. He made her chalala. The lilkinami mishum lo yichalel zaro. So b'shlo gomar biyoso. He didn't finish his intercourse. You can't have children without such a bia. Masif Rava. So Rava asks a question. If a Kohen Gadol lived with Almana Grusha, who was already a Grusha, loike mishum shnei shemos. he would get 2 sets of malchus. My love, Shnei Shemesh V'Sulo, it would be 3, based on what we said. So Shnei Shemesh Al Zeh. So the Almana Lo Yikach Lo Yichala, Shnei Shemesh Al Zeh. The Grusha and the Lo Yichal. So you'd be 4. Yachiem is safe. If a Kohen Gadol had relations with a Grusha of Chlutza, and a Chayv Achas. Because Chlutza, you don't get, it's only midrabanan. It's not Osir Min HaTorah. But it should say Shtayim, Ochi Kamer. And a Chayiv Ela Al Achas for Grusha, but Ula Oilam Shnei Shemos. But there'd be Lo Yichalal as well. Now, where do you get this thing, Chlutza the Rabbana? Chlutza Rabbana Vatanya. It says Grusha, Eli La Grusha Chalutza Minayin, Tamador V'Isha Grusha. So the Gemara seems to say, there's a drasha to say that Chalutza is Minatorah. This is Midrabanan Ukros Machtabam. It's Midrabanan. We give him Malchus only Midrabanan. Ukros Machtabam. Amr Abaye. If a Kohen gave Kiddushin to a woman that it was prohibited, look at it. Because it says Lo Yikach. Then if he went and had relations, Baal, Loike gets another Malchus. Why? Im Kiddush Loike Mishum Lo Yikach. Baal Loike Mishum Lo Yichala. You made her a Chalala with the B. Rava Omar Im Baal Loike. And in Lo Baal ain't a Loike, just giving her Kiddushin. Without sleeping with her, there's no Malchus. Mishum Dechsiv Lo Yikach V'Lo Yichala. Matam Lo Yikach Mishum Lo Yichala. Why shouldn't you take her? Because you're going to be mechalel her. You're only going to be mechayev for the kiddushin only if you did bia, which brings chalalos. Moida abaya ba'mazir grushos. A person divorced his wife, and she married somebody else, and you took her back after that. She im kidesh. If you only gave her kiddushin the second time, below ball ain't a loka, because it says lekachta lioslo leisha amrachman. There's no isra the kiddushin only if there was ishus relations. Va'aleka. Moida Rava b'kohen gadol ba'amana. Rava will admit by kohen gadol ba'amana she involved loy kiddush. If there was bia without kiddushin shaloika, you get malchus for the be'ilah. It says, "V'lo yichal zar ba'amav v'rachman v'reu chila." He made her a chalala with the bia. You don't need the kiddush. Ushnei moedim b'mazrik rushaso. She involved like kiddush. If the husband had relations with his wife who he had divorced and who had married somebody else, but he never gave her kiddushin, she'ena loket. Because derech likuchin asra Torah. Because it says lekachta lios lo lisha. So it means you have to give kiddushin first. Rabbi Yehuda Omer bas ger zocher kabas chalal. Rabbi Yehuda said the daughter of a male ger is like the daughter of a chalal who is asur lekuhun. Tanruna Omer bas ger zocher kabas chalal zocher, and it's pasul lekuhuna. V'adin noisen, and it's a kavachoyner. Ma chalal shaba metipek sheira. A chalal, both, let's say the father's a Kohen, the mother's a Grusha, they're both Jews. Yet, bito psula. Ger shaba metipek psula. A ger who was originally a goy, and who came from a puzzledika drop, enu din shabito psula. But we would be able to break that. Malach halal, shekain yitzirasu bavera. Chalal was born through an Avera. A ger, his creation wasn't Bavera. His parents who were Goyim, they were permitted to live with each other. But maybe Kohen Gadol ba'amana yochiach. When a Kohen Gadol and an Amana live together. Ein yitziraso Bavera. the Kohen Gadol, when he was created, he wasn't created by Vera. Yet Bito Psula. But that we say Malak Kohen Gadol Ban Mona can be also Bavera. But his Bia is Bavera. So Chalal Yochiach. Because when the Chalal has relations with his wife, that's not Be'avera, yet we say the daughter is puzzled. The Chazra did. So we're back to the starting point. Lo Rizek Rizat Sadashavish, and what's the common denominator? She'ena Barova Kol. They're not part of the majority of the call. The Geirim, either because they weren't born that way, or because their Bia was Bavera. And therefore their daughter is puzzled. Af ani avia sager she'ena barova kol, and therefore bito psul. I malat tzad hashavish ken yesh bem tzad avera. But in those other cases, there is an avera, and there's no avera in the birth of the ger. Lo tema kon gadol b'alman yochiach ela ema mitzri rishon yochiach. When a Mitzri lives with another, either Yisrael or another Mitzri, it's not Bavera, but the Vlad is puzzled for 3 generations. I Malam Mitzri Rishon Sheken Ein Roy Lavavakol, but he can't marry anybody. Chalal Yochiach, he's permitted to come into the call, yet his daughter is puzzled. Chazra did. They're not in the majority of the call. Ubito psula. Afani avias again. She'ena b'rov call ubito psula. I malatzad shavish shekin poislim es biason. Their bia will puzzle the kohenes, which is not the case by a ger, because the kohenes can marry a ger. So Rabbi Yehuda ger. Poisel the biasur. Rabbi Yehuda will hold that a ger makes whoever he sleeps with pasal l'kuhuna, and therefore ma'atzla b'matzad ma'idina, and therefore he learns it from the tzad hashava from the chalal. But we paskin like Eliezer ben Yaakov that unless both the mother and the father were gerim, the child is not a chalal. Tani Rav Shimon Yochai Omer. A convert who converted less than 3 years old, Sher Lakuna can marry Cohen. Because after the fight with Midian, it says, that you could keep the young girls alive. And Pinchas was a Kohen. So, L'chora, the minor girls were permitted. What are the Rabbanan who say it's not permitted? What do they do with this? You could have them as avodim, but not for marriage. The Kulan Mikra Chadosh. They're both learning it from the same pasuk. It says, Amanal Grusha Lo Yikachu Lahem L'Nashim Kim Besulos Mizer Bas Yisrael. That a Kohen has to take only a Besula Mizer Bas Yisrael. Rav Yisrael Adi is Kol Zer Yisrael. So if one of the parents is a ger, he's not in Yisrael anymore. Mizer Yisrael. I feel there. Even if one of the parents was Yisrael, it's enough. Rabbi Yossi, who said that a daughter of a ger v'gioris is also permitted lakuna savar, mishin is rubi Yisrael. As long as the relations occurred when they were Jews, their children are okay. And Rav Shimon Yochai, who's machshir by gioris itself, savar besulos mizeres Yisrael, mishin is rub suleb Yisrael. When her virginity came into being, she was already a Jew. Chazal understood that the hymen is fully formed at the age of 3. So that's when it occurred, when she was a full Yisrael. Okay. We'll stop here.
Go ahead. Very good.
Today
Shkoyach.
is Thursday.
Shkoyach.
So
Tomorrow.
tomorrow we will learn at 4:30.
Very good.
Okay.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach. Shkoyach.
Good night.